The alien school was like something out of a science fiction novel. Imagine a bizarrely shaped building that looked more like a giant floating jellyfish than a place of learning. Inside, there were desks that defied gravity, floating around at different heights, and holographic projectors blipping in and out of existence, like something out of a 3D movie. Alien students of all shapes and sizes were scattered throughout the room, doing activities that ranged from learning how to communicate with colors to practicing mind-bending math equations in their native languages. Amid all the chaos, in the very back of the classroom sat one lone human girl, the protagonist. She was the only human here, and let's just say she stuck out like a sore thumb. While the rest of her classmates were discussing interdimensional physics or debating the ethics of space-time manipulation, she was just trying not to draw attention to herself, and failing miserably. The alien students couldn't seem to figure her out. "Okay, so this is what my life has come to," the protagonist muttered under her breath, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Intergalactic school. I'm the only human here. And apparently, I'm the least advanced species in the room." Who knew Earthling wasn't exactly an elite status? Her classmates, of course, didn't make things any easier. There was Alien 1, a giant octopus-like creature who had the nerve to glare at her from across the room. "Do you even have a neural network, Earthling?" Alien 1 asked, the words coming out in a tone of pure judgment. The protagonist looked up, giving the alien a slow, exaggerated blink. "Yeah, it's called minimalism, fellas. We like to keep things simple, unlike your crazy alien brains that probably have to calculate how to tie your shoes in 6 different dimensions." Alien 2, a gelatinous blob of ever-shifting goo, started, laughing like it had just heard the funniest joke in the galaxy. "I heard humans only have 1 brain cell for every, let's see, 10 of our best thinkers? Is that right?" The human girl couldn't help but raise an eyebrow at that. "Oh, absolutely," she said dryly. "That's why we invented pizza, you know? Because 1 brain cell can only handle so much processing power. And football? Oh, that's just a side effect of our advanced intellect." She let the sarcasm hang in the air for a moment before continuing her inner monologue. "Seriously, why is it always pizza and football that everyone compares us to? I'm starting to think aliens might have deep-seated issues with both." The rest of the class went on like that. Alien after alien made some comment about how primitive or underdeveloped humans were. Each comment was more bizarre than the last, ranging from questioning the effectiveness of the human digestive system to asking if Earth was just a big experiment for more advanced species to laugh at. All the while, the protagonist just sat there, doing her best to tune it all out while silently cursing her luck. Some days, being a human on an alien planet felt a little like being the last slice of pizza at a party full of people who had no idea what pizza even was. Sure, they all stared at it, poked at it, and made wild assumptions, but nobody really understood it. She was the weird, misunderstood, and slightly out-of-place slice, and frankly, she was starting to get a little tired of it. Anyway, the protagonist thought as she half-listened to her classmates argue over the ethics of multidimensional cloning, "At least I'm getting a free education out of this, even if it's mostly about being laughed at." The day had started off like any other, with the human girl sitting at her usual spot in the back of the classroom, trying to remain as invisible as possible. She had learned quickly that blending in was the best strategy. The alien students were too busy with their own studies to bother her much, except for the occasional odd comment or strange question. She figured that as long as she didn't draw attention to herself, the class would pass by in its usual strange but relatively harmless way. But that day, things went a little differently. It started innocently enough when Alien 1, an octopus-like creature with way too many tentacles for its own good, knocked over a floating hologram projector while trying to adjust its tentacles. The device spiraled in the air barely missing the human girl's head. She instinctively reached up to catch it, her hand flicking upward in a casual motion to stop it from crashing. The moment her hand made contact, the projector froze mid-air, hovering for a brief second before gently lowering back to its original position. Alien 1 froze, eyes widening in disbelief. What in the galaxy was that? Your limbs just moved by themselves. The whole class went silent, every alien student staring at her, eyes wide with confusion. The human girl blinked and shrugged, trying to act casual. She wasn't sure what had just happened either, but she wasn't about to act like it was anything out of the ordinary. After all, she had done things like this back on Earth, albeit without the whole intergalactic audience. Alien 2, a gelatinous blob that could barely hold itself together in a solid shape, slowly rolled toward her, a skeptical expression shifting across its wobbly surface. Wait, are you telekinetic or just grossly advanced for a primitive species? The human girl smirked, leaning back in her chair with her arms crossed, as if this was just another day at the office. Oh yeah, forgot to mention. I'm basically a walking superpower generator, so next time you see me casually flipping your spaceship off the ground, try not to spill your beverages, okay? Alien 3, who had been quietly scribbling something on a floating pad, dropped it in shock. The object floated down and clinked onto the floor as its owner stared at the human girl in wide-eyed disbelief. But you didn't tell us you were what did you call it, a hyper-intelligent life form? The entire class was silent now, every student looking at her like they were seeing a rare alien creature, which, ironically, was exactly what she was. The human girl sighed dramatically, rolling her eyes as if the whole thing was just ridiculous. Oh, sorry, I didn't bring a brochure on the mighty human species with me. You know, we're a little too busy living our lives without constantly boasting about our awesomeness. Alien 2 blinked, or at least what passed for blinking in its gelatinous form. So, wait, you're telling us that your species is this advanced? And you never said anything. Why didn't you tell us you could do that? Because it's not a big deal, the human girl replied, her tone dripping with sarcasm. I mean, who doesn't casually move objects with their mind while sitting in class? It's just part of the daily grind. Maybe you guys should try it sometime. I'm sure it's great for impressing people at dinner parties. Alien 1, still clearly in panic mode, turned to the others. I knew humans were weak, but this changes everything. Its many tentacles flailed in all directions, knocking over nearby objects in its frenzy. The human girl leaned forward and smirked, enjoying the spectacle of them, finally realizing they had underestimated her. Oh yeah, you're probably right. Weakest species in the galaxy. But you know what? We've also got something called teamwork. So maybe, just maybe, we don't need to be the strongest species to win the day. Alien 3, still unable to process the magnitude of the situation, looked back at the human girl. How is this possible? You're so human. The human girl shrugged, still pretending that this wasn't a big deal. Like I said, hyper-intelligent life form. You're just lucky I haven't shown you my next trick. Alien 2, clearly trying to get a grip on things, asked, wait, if humans are this advanced, why are you still in a class with us? Why don't you just dominate the galaxy? The human girl chuckled and shook her head. Oh, please. If I wanted to rule the galaxy, I would have started with your school. But let's face it, you guys are too much of a mess to be taken seriously. I'm here for the snacks and to make sure you don't get too lost in your theoretical wormhole. Equations. And don't even get me started on your fashion choices. The class went silent again, clearly processing the absurdity of the situation. Alien 1 still hadn't stopped flailing its tentacles around, and Alien 3 appeared to be in some kind of trance, trying to comprehend the idea that a human, of all species, could be this powerful. Seriously, the human girl added, leaning back in her chair with a smug smile. If you can't handle a little telekinesis, I'd suggest not inviting me to your next intergalactic talent show. I will upstage all of you. And don't even think about asking me to help with your homework. With that, the silence in the room lingered, every alien staring at her in awe, trying to figure out just how it was possible that they had spent all this time underestimating the human species. For the first time since arriving, the human girl felt a little more confident in her place at the school. After all, what could be better than proving to a bunch of aliens that humans weren't just primitive? We were, in fact, superior. At least when it came to mind-bending powers and sarcasm. After the shock of the discovery wore off, the aliens began to panic in the most dramatic ways imaginable. It was as though a switch had flipped, and the realization that they had been making fun of someone far more powerful than they had ever anticipated sent them into a frenzy of over-the-top apologies. Alien 1, the octopus-like creature, was the first to break the silence. In a move that was equal parts dramatic and ridiculous, it dropped to its many knees, causing several of its tentacles to flop around in a chaotic mess. "Please," it cried, its voice wavering with desperation. "Forgive us. We never realized how great your species is. You humans are the pinnacle of evolution." The human girl couldn't help but roll her eyes. She had no idea how many times she'd heard variations of that line before, usually from people who had realized they were in over their heads. She decided to have some fun with it. "Oh, sure," she replied with an exaggerated wave of her hand. "I mean, we're just too humble, right? I guess we are the greatest thing to ever grace this galaxy. But you're forgiven, of course." She gave a quick mock bow mimicking the alien's theatrics. But Alien 2, the gelatinous blob, wasn't satisfied with just words. No, it was determined to make things right by offering something tangible. It wobbled its way over to her, and with all the seriousness it could muster, it presented a bizarre, glittering object. "Here," Alien 2 said triumphantly, "take this unbreakable toothbrush. It's for cleaning your interdimensional teeth." The human girl stared at the gift in disbelief. Was this really what they thought she needed? She couldn't help but burst out laughing. Thanks, but I'm good. I mean, I don't really need a toothbrush to clean my interdimensional teeth since, I don't even have interdimensional teeth." She shook her head. "But hey, I'm sure there's someone out there in the galaxy who would find that really useful. Not me, though." Alien 3, looking somewhat embarrassed by the others' choices, decided to top off the apology parade with what it thought was the ultimate gift. With all the seriousness it could muster, it handed her something that looked like a refrigerator. But not just any refrigerator. "We have also crafted this space-time traveling fridge for your intergalactic food storage needs." The human girl took the gift with a blank stare, trying to figure out exactly how to respond. A fridge that traveled through time. What was she supposed to do with that? She stared at it for a long moment before speaking, her voice dripping with sarcasm. You guys realize we just put pizza in regular fridges, right? I mean, that's kind of the basic thing about fridges. They're not supposed to bend space-time just to keep food cold. I'm not looking for a fridge that defies the laws of physics every time I need a snack." Alien 3 didn't seem to get the hint. But this fridge is truly magnificent. It can store your food for centuries or even warp your snacks to different dimensions." The human girl stared at it again, trying to suppress a laugh. "Yeah, no thanks. I just need to store my leftovers without accidentally sending them to an alternate universe, okay? And also, I'm not sure how this fridge would help me in my everyday life, but I'm guessing you've never seen a normal fridge before." As the aliens all stared at her, still waiting for some sign of gratitude, she couldn't help but chuckle. "Look, guys, I appreciate the effort, but let's be real. You've been treating me like I'm some weak, primitive life form, and now you think a fridge that warps space-time is going to make up for it. Honestly, just try not to look so shocked when I start moving things with my mind again. It's Really not that big of a deal. Alien 1, still kneeling dramatically, cleared its throat, seemingly trying to regain some dignity. But surely you must understand how truly sorry we are now. We underestimated your species in the worst possible way. You are the pinnacle of evolutionary greatness. The human girl shrugged, acting as though this wasn't her first time having the universe bow down to her. I get it, okay? You thought I was just a weak little human. Now you know better. Honestly, I'm not interested in your apologies or your weird gifts. All I'm really looking for is some respect. Maybe a little less alien condescension next time would be great, though. Alien 2, still wobbling nervously, offered another awkward apology. We truly regret our actions, human. You've shown us that humans can be far more powerful than we ever realized. We were wrong about you. The human girl grinned. Oh, I'm sure you were, but don't worry about it. We've all been wrong about someone at some point. Just don't expect me to go around saving the galaxy for you anytime soon. She paused for a moment before adding, but I guess if you ever need a really great pizza, you know who to ask. The aliens looked at each other, still unsure how to fully grasp the situation. They had apologized in ways that were completely over the top and ridiculous, offering gifts that made no sense, but all they had really done was dig themselves deeper into the hole they had created. Okay, the human girl said, finally, tired of their endless apologies. I'll call it even. But just know this, next time, maybe try not insulting someone before you realize they can turn your spaceship into a paperweight. I'm sure that would save us all a lot of time. The aliens, at a loss for words, could only nod in agreement, still unsure what had just happened. They'd learned a valuable lesson, but one thing was for certain. They weren't about to mess with this particular human ever again. And as for the human girl, she couldn't help but feel a little smug about having turned the tables on them. After all, how often did you get to have an entire galaxy apologize to you? The aliens, still, trying to wrap their minds around the fact that the human girl was actually much more powerful than they initially thought, began asking questions. But instead of realizing how advanced humans truly were, they kept misunderstanding basic concepts, which only made the human girl more frustrated and amused. Alien 1, the octopus-like creature, looked absolutely baffled. So, humans don't have gravity-defying food? It asked, its tentacles wriggling in confusion. What do you eat then? Please tell me, Earthling, how does your species survive without food that ascends to the heavens? The human girl raised an eyebrow, trying to hold back a laugh. She leaned forward, speaking in the most deadpan tone she could muster. You know, we just kind of let food stay where it is. It doesn't need to defy gravity. We've figured out how to keep food on the ground for like thousands of years. Revolutionary, I know. Alien 1 blinked, clearly unable to comprehend this very basic concept. But that's so primitive, it said, struggling to find the right words. The human girl couldn't help but roll her eyes. Yeah, I know it's super old-fashioned, but it works, you know? No need to have your pizza float away in the middle of a meal. Alien 2, the gelatinous blob, was still looking puzzled but also very impressed. But surely your species has no real strength compared to ours. You don't have superpowers. The human girl couldn't believe what she was hearing. She crossed her arms and stared at the blob, sarcasm dripping from her voice. Oh sure, we're all weaklings. Except for the part where we build entire civilizations by throwing a leather ball down a field and then calling it football. That's our superpower. Alien 2 looked even more confused now, if that was possible. Football? What is this football you speak of? The human girl sighed and rubbed her temples, trying to figure out how to explain this bizarre misunderstanding. Football is just like if you really wanted to build a civilization based on running around and tackling each other for a ball. It's like a metaphor for human progress, except with more bruises. Alien 3, who had been listening to the conversation with wide, innocent eyes, piped up, looking completely lost. "Wait, so you just run after a ball, and that's progress?" The human girl nodded slowly, her sarcasm growing with each word. "Yep, that's exactly how we advanced. You should have seen the ancient civilizations. They spent hours chasing balls. And then they invented things like the wheel and skyscrapers. But don't worry, they made sure the ball came first." The aliens were silent for a moment, processing this strange explanation. The human girl could practically see the gears turning in their heads as they tried to figure out how this made sense. Alien 1, after a long pause, spoke again. "So, you don't have gravity-defying food and you don't have superpowers, like us? And your greatest strength is football?" The human girl raised an eyebrow. Yeah, basically. But don't let the whole football thing fool you. We've got other really cool things going for us, like this thing called teamwork. You've probably heard of it. It's when people work together to solve problems. You know, not throwing a tantrum every time someone's late to dinner. Alien 2, still struggling to grasp the basics of human culture, asked, "Teamwork. Is that some kind of superpower?" The human girl nearly choked on her own laughter. "No, teamwork is just what happens when people stop being selfish for 5 minutes and decide to do something together. It's not that hard, guys. Maybe give it a try sometime." Alien 3, ever the innocent one, furrowed its translucent brow. "But humans don't have gravity-defying food, and they don't have superpowers. So, what else do you have that makes you so advanced?" The human girl looked at the blob for a long moment. "Okay, let me break it down for you. Humans are, like, really good at figuring out things that matter. We invented things like electricity, plumbing, and the internet. We can build skyscrapers that scrape the sky and send people to the moon. We've even figured out how to make pizza and keep it from floating away." Alien. One blinked, trying to follow, but you're telling me that humans have all of that, and it's because of football? The human girl grinned. "Well, I wouldn't say just football, but yes, a lot of human progress comes from figuring out how to work together, kind of like how we work together in a football game to not get our faces smashed into the grass." Alien 2 looked a little embarrassed now. "So, no gravity-defying food?" The human girl shook her head. "Nope, just regular food. The kind that stays on the ground. Sorry to disappoint." Alien 3, still not quite getting it, asked, "Then, if humans have all these amazing things, why don't you share them with the rest of the galaxy? You could easily be in charge of everything." The human girl smirked. "We've got plenty of things we're working on, trust me. But we're not interested in running the galaxy. We're just doing our thing. If you need help figuring out what to eat for lunch, I'm your girl. But world domination? Nah, that's too much effort." Alien 1 nodded slowly, as if it was starting to understand, though the whole concept still seemed pretty foreign. "So, no superpowers, no floating food, no controlling the universe? Just football and teamwork?" The human girl sighed. "Yep, that's basically it. But if you still want to call us primitive, that's cool. It just means we've got a lot of room to improve, and you guys might want to catch up." Alien 2 scratched its blob-like surface in confusion. "Humans are very strange," the human girl smiled. "You have no idea. Things had escalated quickly. What had started as a typical awkward day in class, filled with misunderstandings and alien ignorance, was now spiraling out of control. The school, which was apparently equipped with all kinds of fancy alien technology, was now on the verge of being destroyed. How, you ask? Well, let's just say that an experiment involving unstable space-time fields had gone very wrong. Now, the classroom was caught in the middle of a time-space anomaly, and everything was rapidly falling apart around them. "Great," the human girl muttered to herself, watching as bits of the ceiling started to flicker in and out of existence. Alien students were running around, panicking and yelling things that made no sense. The whole room was a mess, and the alien teachers had either fled or been sucked into alternate dimensions. "Okay, so here's the deal," she said loudly, stepping up in front of her terrified classmates, her arms crossed and her expression dripping with sarcasm. "I'll save your butts from total destruction, but only because, well, humans know how to work together. Just don't expect me to do everything." While you sit there being alien-y, the alien students froze. They were still trying to process how this tiny human, who they had been mocking only a few minutes ago, was suddenly the one who could save them all. Alien 1, the octopus-like creature, was the first to speak, its voice filled with awe. "Humans, we have underestimated you. Your strength is not just physical, it's your ability to unite," the human girl scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Oh, it's not that deep. It's just called teamwork, guys. Get with the program." Alien 2, the gelatinous blob, wobbled nervously. But we don't know how to work together. We've always relied on our individual powers." "Well, guess what?" she said, grinning. "You're going to have to figure it out, and fast." She didn't wait for a response before walking toward the source of the problem, the strange, flickering portal that had opened in the middle of the room. The humans hadn't even realized how many different kinds of chaos could come from alien experiments. "Okay, this is a mess," the human girl said, her eyes scanning the chaotic room. "But here's the deal. If we want to survive this, I need everyone's help. No more sitting around waiting for me to fix everything. If we do this right, we can stabilize the anomaly before it destroys everything in this dimension." She raised an eyebrow, glancing over her shoulder at the aliens. "You all still think I'm the weakling, right?" Alien 3, still trying to keep up with the situation, nodded quickly. "We'll do whatever you say, human." "Good," she said, turning back to the unstable portal. "Now listen up. We're going to need to create a balance of energy between all of us. You guys have your fancy powers, and I've got mine. Let's just combine everything and stabilize this thing before we all get sucked into some alternate timeline where pizza doesn't exist." Alien 1 quickly floated to her side, its many tentacles twitching nervously. "But we've never done anything like this before. We've never worked together for something like this." The human girl gave a dry laugh, her hands on her hips. "Well, you better figure it out, because this thing is about to turn this whole place into a bad sci-fi movie. You all seem to have these awesome powers, but none of you are using them together." She gestured to the portal, which was growing increasingly unstable. "All you need to do is think of this like, I don't know, a really weird version of football. All of us need to play our part. Tackle the problem from every angle, together." Alien 2, still shaking from the chaos, finally seemed to get it. "Football. Work together. Tackle the problem. Yes, we can do this." It took a deep, jelly-like breath and wobbled to a position next to the human girl. "I'm ready." "Good," she said. "Let's get to work." With her direction, the aliens began to use their powers in sync with the human girl's telekinesis. She had the ability to manipulate objects with her mind, so she focused on lifting and guiding the unstable particles of the portal. Alien 1, using its many tentacles, began stabilizing the edges of the portal by manipulating the strange energy fields surrounding it. Alien 2 used its liquid form to absorb and redirect energy surges, while Alien 3 used its ability to project calming waves of energy to keep everyone focused. The human girl, still keeping up the snark, couldn't help but smile. "See? I told you. Teamwork. It's not that complicated, guys." As the energy from the portal began to stabilize, the atmosphere in the room grew calmer. The rifts in space-time slowly closed and the flashing lights dimmed. The human girl's hands moved gracefully, her powers working in perfect harmony with the alien's abilities. At the last moment, just as the portal was about to collapse entirely, Alien 1 gave one final push, sealing the rift completely. There was a moment of absolute silence, and then the room was still. The chaos had ended. Alien 1 was the first to speak, its voice filled with disbelief. We did it." The human girl looked at her classmates, finally letting a real smile break through her usual sarcastic tone. "Yeah, we did. See, it wasn't so hard, was it?" Alien 2, who had been a trembling mess just moments before, seemed to stand taller now. "Humans are incredible. You've taught us that working together is not just possible, it's the key to survival." The human girl gave a mock bow. "Yeah, I know. We humans are pretty great at it. But you guys still have a lot to learn. Next, in time, maybe try not to create a rift in the first place." Alien 3 nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, we will learn, and we'll always remember how you saved us." The human girl gave them a playful wink. "Just remember one thing, guys. It wasn't me saving you. It was all of us working together. I just happened to be the one who pointed it out." And with that, the once terrified group of aliens now looked at their human classmate with a newfound respect. They had learned the most valuable lesson of all, that even in the strangest of situations, teamwork was the ultimate superpower. After the dust settled, the room was eerily calm. The unstable energy from the portal was completely gone, and the alien students were standing together in a semicircle, looking at each other in disbelief. They had just survived an experience that they never would have imagined possible. And, of course, they had learned a very valuable lesson. The human girl stood in the middle of the room, her arms crossed, leaning against the wall. A smug smile crept across her face as she watched the aliens trying to process everything that had just happened. They had underestimated her, mocked her, and thought she was the weakest one there. But now, they had learned. The once chaotic and confused group of aliens was now quiet, humbled, and, surprisingly, grateful. Alien 1, the octopus-like creature, was the first to speak. "We understand now. You humans are truly superior." Its voice was filled with awe and a hint of shame. It had been one of the worst offenders when it came to making fun of the human girl, but now it was clear that the tables had turned. The human girl smirked, not letting the praise go to her head. Well, not too much. "Oh, sure. You guys finally figured it out, huh?" She gave them a mock bow, letting the sarcasm fill the air. "I mean, I was going to give you a medal for most improved alien species, but I'm still waiting for that spaceship you promised." Alien 2, the gelatinous blob, seemed to glow a little brighter in embarrassment, but also in gratitude. We were wrong about you," it said slowly, as if trying to fully understand how this tiny human had managed to teach them all such an important lesson. "You have strength in ways we didn't understand." The human girl grinned. "Oh, no need to get all dramatic. I don't need a giant trophy or anything, but I would love a spaceship, you know. You did promise one after all." Alien 3, still looking a little dazed from the whole ordeal, turned to the others. "I think we owe her more than just a spaceship. She saved us. We couldn't have done it without her." Yeah, the human girl said, waving her hand dismissively. I know, teamwork, we all did it. But just for the record, I was the one who pointed out that it wasn't all about me doing everything. So you're welcome." The aliens exchanged a few uncertain glances, but it was clear that they were starting to understand her point. It wasn't about just one person. No, it was about everyone coming together and contributing their strengths. And even though the human girl was sarcastic and a little cocky about it, the lesson was clear. They had all played a role, but the human girl had been the one to show them how to work as a team. "And hey," the human girl added, her smile turning a little more genuine, "I know it was a bit of a mess, but you all did better than I expected. Maybe next time you'll get it right without nearly blowing up the whole school." She paused, glancing at them with a mischievous grin. "Just don't try to mess with any more space-time stuff while I'm around, okay?" Alien 1, looking slightly embarrassed but grateful, nodded. "We'll try. But we understand now that it's not about who has the most power. It's about working together to solve problems." "Exactly," the human girl said, throwing her hands up in a shrug. "See, you guys get it. Now just one last thing." She gave them a playful wink. "That spaceship still waiting." Alien 2 let out a nervous laugh. "Yes, we will see what we can do, as soon as we figure out how to make one that doesn't collapse under the weight of its own mistakes." The human girl's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Good luck with that." She stood up straight, shaking her head in mock disappointment. "But really, I'm just glad you guys finally realized that humans aren't all that bad. We're a lot better at surviving than you gave us credit for." There was a long, thoughtful silence as the aliens processed the lesson they had just learned. Finally, Alien 3 spoke up again. "Thank you for showing us what true strength really is." The human girl grinned, her confidence restored. Yeah, just don't forget me when you're out there conquering the galaxy. I'll be the one here still trying to figure out how to get that spaceship you promised." Alien 1 raised one of its tentacles in an exaggerated gesture of respect. "We won't forget you, human. You've proven to us that there's more to strength than just raw power. You've shown us that working together is the true strength of any species." The human girl couldn't help but chuckle at the sincere, but completely over-the-top gesture. "Oh, sure. Now I'm some kind of superhero or something. Look, I'm just here to get through the day without losing my lunch, okay?" As the aliens continued to express their thanks in various ways, the human girl stood back, watching them with a mix of amusement and pride. Sure, they still had a lot to learn about humanity, but at least they'd finally figured out that humans weren't just a weak species after all. And if she was going to be the one to teach them that lesson, then so be it. The human girl shrugged, glancing at them one last time with a playful smile. "So, no spaceship yet, huh? Well, I'll give you guys a few more days, but I'm not waiting forever." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving the aliens to figure out how to live up to their promises. And as for her, she was just fine with letting them think they owed her something. After all, they had learned their lesson, and that was all that really mattered. Plus, who could resist a little bit of sarcasm when you've just saved the day?